hold off on that. The flash appeal itself for just the humanitarian assistance is now funded at about 39%. We do look forward, obviously, to more funding coming in. When I say it's funded at 39%, that includes commitments. Doesn't mean that the 39% is actually in the accounts and being used, but it is representative of what we would expect to be coming in over the next several weeks.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Next up is Satoko Adachi from Japanese Press.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you. I just want to follow up Nick's question on blowing up Urua school. I didn't catch up your answer clearly. So did you receive any warning beforehand? And were there any people inside, or if people had evacuated beforehand?
Yeah, so we were told that they were going to be, well, I think we were told that people should leave. So we didn't appreciate what the extent of the damage was going to be. I have not received any reports of any casualties, so my understanding is people did leave. So yes, we did receive advance notice. But again, in terms of the reasons why, I would refer you to the Israelis.
Thank you very much. Chloe, AFP.
Hey, sorry, just one last question. I don't know if you have heard any reports of the 120 children who were in Al-Shifa hospital and who had no surviving member of their family. They were taken, I mean, they were with medical staff of Al-Shifa. I don't know if you know where they are now.
Yeah. So UNICEF has what we call a tracing or tracking mechanism in place. I don't have the actual details on that. We can ask UNICEF how much they've been able to confirm on that. And if we have that information, we can again send it back through Jens.
Thank you. Isabel Efe again.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to ask about the how are you trying to deal or UN or Palestinians themselves with the number of people that you mentioned that is now sheltering in Rafah? You mentioned that I don't find exactly in my notes, but you mentioned that most of Palestinian population now is in Rafah, in this small area of Rafah. Could you please update the situation there? How you mentioned people are in the streets, sleeping in the streets, but beyond that, and what is, for example, the situation, if you have any update of the Nasser hospital, where apparently the destruction has been very serious in the last days? Thank you.
Yeah. So we estimate that there's about 1 million people in Rafah. So I think, again, you can visualize what that means. It impacts our own ability to move. It increases a public health crisis, and just trying to get food to people who are in Rafah is extremely difficult. We have said, I think, a number of times, both publicly but also with the Israelis, that moving people into these very small places will jeopardize the humanitarian operations in Gaza. And it may come to a point where we're simply not able to provide the assistance, even if it does get in because of the situation. People need to be able to move. We cannot have people into these small areas and expect that there won't be a public health crisis or that we will be able to distribute. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. The reason why Gaza is not safe is not just because of the airstrikes, but it's also because these conditions that are being created by the massive displacement of the population into smaller and smaller areas of Gaza. With respect to Nasser Hospital, yes, this is all part of the fact that now there's only 1/3 of the hospitals inside of Gaza, 36 hospitals. Now there's less than 1/3 that are functioning. And when I say functioning, I use that word very, very loosely, because most of the hospitals that are functioning also have sorry, I just got distracted there. Most of the hospitals are not functioning to capacity. So it just means people are not being treated for all the various diseases and injuries that they're suffering from.
Thank you very much, Lynn. I think we will take a couple of more questions and then wrap it up. First back to John Saracostas and then Nick from New York Times. Over to you.
Yes, thank you. Coming back to what you were saying about the second crossing, that it's currently being used just for verification. If I'm not mistaken, and please correct me, that crossing before the October 7 crisis had a capacity to deal with about 500 trucks per day, of which the majority were commercial. Is there any indication from the Israeli authorities that they will give the green light for commercial traffic, or is that being restricted because of the limitations of getting into Gaza because of the ongoing conflict?
Okay, so about 500 trucks were going into Gaza before October 7th, but not all of them were coming through Kerem Shalom. Some of them were coming through an informal crossing between Egypt and Gaza, which is called Saladin. We estimated about 30% of goods going into Gaza were going in from this other crossing. So Kerem Shalom's total capacity, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's certainly in the hundreds, the high hundreds. So even though it wouldn't have been 500 a day that were going in, we could probably estimate that it could be as many as 500 or even more that could go through Kerem Shalom. Now, the reason why goods are not going through Kerem Shalom is not because of any type of logistical reason. It's because the government of Israel announced that no humanitarian assistance would go from Israel into Gaza after October 7th. So that's the reason why. It's not because there's some sort of technical restrictions.
Thank you very much, Lynn. And we'll wrap it up with the last question from Nick from New York Times again.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask, what is the status of Kamal Adwan Hospital as of now, and whether you have an update on the people who were detained from there? Thank you.
Sorry, which hospital?
Kamal Adwan.
So we don't actually have the information on people who are being detained, neither from any hospitals nor from any of the UNRWA shelters. We've all seen the pictures. I have asked that ICRC or any appropriate body have access to people who are detained to determine what their conditions are. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be a long-term issue where we're not going to have a lot of the details. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to provide you with those details. And that is one of the reasons why this is very, very concerning, because we don't have the information on people who are being detained.
Thank you very much, Lynn. I don't see any more questions, so we will wrap it up with that. Thank you very much to all of you journalists who joined us online, and those who may have been following us on UN Web TV. And first and foremost, thank you very, very much to you, Lynn, for taking time this morning to brief us. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.